I hated reading growing up. Like, I absolutely despised it. Probably the longest thing I read as a kid was a Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green game guide, which was fantastic, by the way. But man, I was not a reader. So over one summer when the Nintendo GameCube came out, I think I was around 7 or 8 or something like that. My parents cut a deal with me that if I read 50 hours, like 50 hours over the summer, they would buy me a Nintendo GameCube. So let's do a little bit of math here. The summer, let's just say 90 days, June, July, August. I know it's a little less, but whatever. 90 days, that's almost double of reading an hour a day. So if I read an hour of a book every other day for the entire summer, I would get the Nintendo GameCube. That is nothing. That is absolutely nothing. Like, that is a pitiful amount for someone who reads basically every day now. And the sad thing is, I didn't even do it. I mean, I got the GameCube, but I didn't read a single hour. Now, don't get me wrong. It looked like I read for 50 hours, but man, I didn't read a thing. I basically sat with a book open in my hands and stared at the pages for 50 hours over the summer and didn't read a single thing. Like, maybe I read a paragraph here or a paragraph there, but I basically just sat there staring at the time in the background and occasionally flipping the page just to make it fake like I'm reading. So that's how much I hated reading. I would rather sit there and be bored out of my mind for 50 hours over a summer just holding a book instead of just reading it, which was probably a pretty good book. I have no clue what it was, but I mean, it had to have been better than just sitting there and mindlessly staring at a page for 50 hours. Come to think of it, my parents probably knew that I didn't read anything, considering I started from the beginning of the same book every single time I read. But honestly, they were probably just happy that I wasn't sitting in the basement playing Smash Bros. For 50 hours a day. So years go by, and the seeds of me starting to love to read finally started forming with a TV show, and that TV show was Game of Thrones. So me personally, I got on the Game of Thrones train pretty late. Like, I always knew it was a really popular show and everyone loved it and there were books, but I officially started watching season 1 right as season 6 ended. I originally borrowed the Blu-rays from a friend who really liked the show, and man, when I say I got hooked on Game of Thrones, that is an understatement. I watched the entire first season of the show maybe in like 2 days or something like that. Immediately went out and bought the Blu-rays for the next 2 seasons, and it completely enveloped my life for however long it took for me to watch through the whole thing. That's all I thought about. I was watching YouTube videos about it, theories about it, articles. I was watching all the bonus features. Like, it was crazy. It was my entire life, and I loved the show. And I had a problem. I binged through the TV show so fast, and I had to wait forever for the next season to come out. So I needed a solution to satisfy my Game of Thrones obsession. So at that point in time, basically every YouTuber under the sun had an Audible subscription. And I mean, I was also stupidly obsessed with watching YouTube videos. So I mean, I'm kind of already listening to stories, so I may as well, try out an audiobook. So I picked a code that one of the YouTubers had. I got my free audiobook, but I got an interesting one, not one that you'd expect. The obvious choice would be to get, the first Song of Ice and Fire book, A Game of Thrones, that the TV show that I'm obsessed with is based off of, but I didn't. I ended up going with The Tales of Dunk and Egg, which is also a Game of Thrones book, but it's a companion book. If you haven't read it, it's full of 3 short stories about Sir Duncan the Tall and Aegon Targaryen, way back in time, a few hundred years or maybe 100 years before the original A Song of Ice and Fire or Game of Thrones show/books started. So yeah, I'm not sure why I went for that one. But man, I am super happy that I did, because 1, it was really good. I just really enjoyed the 3 short stories. And 2, it was narrated by Daenerys's brother, like from the show. And, he was, the bad guy of season 1 who was a giant douche. And oh man, his voice acting for the audiobook was awesome. And voice acting aside, I loved it. It was so good. I enjoyed the whole thing. And it kind of put into perspective of how much, I could potentially really like these audiobooks. So after I got the Tales of Dunk and Egg book, I, signed up for my Audible monthly subscription, and I got the first Game of Thrones book, A Game of Thrones. It's not a Game of Thrones book, it's Song of Ice and Fire. Gosh, Adam. Ugh. But after getting through the first Song of Ice and Fire book, I fell in love with the series like crazy. I instantly ordered the next one. I grinded through them all. They're pretty long books, and I grinded through really, really fast. And man, I loved them. So there I was, officially enjoying an actual book, not physical. I wasn't physically reading it. I was listening to it, but I was enjoying a book. So the seeds of me really starting to read, they were on the way. They were on the way. So I was kind of stuck again. I blew through the A Song of Ice and Fire series. Who knows when the next one's coming out. Come on, George, I believe in you. You got this. But, I was kind of stuck. I read a bunch of books that I really, really liked, but, they came from a TV show that I really, really liked. Obviously the TV show is based off the books. But, I was kind of stuck again. So I decided to turn to some Audible Originals. If you don't know, if you have, an Audible Plus membership or whatever it's called, they have a bunch of free stuff that you can use and listen to whenever you want. And that includes some Audible Originals, which is like these, some of these are fully voice acted with multiple different actors and actresses. Pretty cool. Like every character has their own different voice. So, and they have some sound effects and stuff like that. So they're pretty cool. And the one I went for is called Ender Alive. So if you don't know, Ender Alive is a retelling of Ender's Game, which is a book that came out in the 80s by Orson Scott Card. And I really liked it. And maybe it was just because of the voice acting, who knows, but it was a really solid experience listening to that. It almost kind of threw me off because I was getting so used to hearing, all of the thoughts of these characters and hearing the actions described to me. And this was more of like a stage play that was all just voice acted and sound effects. There weren't any thoughts or anything like that, but it was good. It was really, really good. Now for me, that was the tipping point. I searched up the Ender's Game series, and it's this huge series that has the last book coming out in November, actually, which I'm crazy excited about. But there's like 11 plus books all in this series that has like 2 branching different paths, and it has prequels and a whole bunch of stuff. So I decided it was time. I bit the bullet and I bought the sequels to Ender's Game, the physical copies, and I started reading them. And here they are. I still got them. This is the Ender Quartet, which is one of the 2 branching paths after Ender's Game. And these, very quickly turned into some of my favorite books, and physical books at that. I was actually reading physical books every single day. I couldn't put them down. Absolutely loved them, had a fantastic time. And after that, there was no going back. I have a whole bunch of physical books on my bookshelf. I have a Kindle that I read from all the time because I don't have any more space for physical books. And it's awesome. It's crazy how going from something as simple as, a TV show to finding the audiobooks to, being a full-blown reader now, it's really, really awesome. And I can't overstate this enough. Audiobooks. If you are not a reader, if you do not think you enjoy reading, give audiobooks a try. They are so awesome. You don't even have to sit down to, physically read a book. You can do whatever you want. You can listen to it on your commute to work. You can do it while you're cooking dinner, mowing the lawn, anything. The audiobook is always there for you. And whatever you're doing, almost whatever you're doing, you can be listening to a book. So that's the whole moral of the story here. If you don't think you like reading, give audiobooks a try. And I bet you'll be surprised. Let me know in the comments down below how you became a reader. Have you always been a reader your entire life? Was it one special book that really tipped you off into becoming a reader? Let me know. I'll be curious. If there's any stories out there that are similar to mine. But thank you for listening to me ramble about my Audible history today. And we will see you guys next time.